Okay, so I just had a pretty hilarious interaction in Jay Dyer's server with the man himself. Before I play that clip, I want to issue an apology to Jay Dyer. At the start of the clip that you're about to watch, I told Jay that if he asked me to leave his server, I would leave his server. Eventually, he did ask me to leave his server, but at that point, I was pretty wound up, got carried away, and I didn't leave when he asked me to. So that was not cool on my part. I would be extremely annoyed if someone did that to me, and I truly apologize. Sorry, Jay. Now, having said that, this clip is pretty hilarious. So for those of you who don't remember Jay Dyer, he's a presuppositional Christian apologist. He and Primal Edge Health debated me and Vegan Gains a while ago. Their whole shtick was to try to dodge an internal critique of their own view, name the trait, by focusing on perceived problems with Vegan Gains and my meta-ethics. Now, obviously the problem there is that whether or not there's a problem with our meta-ethics doesn't tell us whether or not there's a problem with his view. So today I went into his Discord to just establish that fact and then say from there that if that's the case, his dismissal of our internal critique based on perceived problems with our meta-ethics was actually just a red herring. Here's a basic formalization. Premise 1. If the inconsistency/insanity of person B's view doesn't tell us whether person A's view is consistent/sane, then Jay's critique of AY and VG's meta-ethics was a red herring with respect to whether his own view is consistent/sane. Premise 2, the inconsistency/insanity of person B's view doesn't tell us whether person A's view is consistent/sane. Conclusion, therefore, Jay's critique of AY/VG's meta-ethics was a red herring with respect to whether his own view is consistent/sane. And just a little caveat here for the logic nerds, because I know someone will probably point it out if I don't. Obviously, the proposition in premise 2 is meant to refer to a situation where the propositions making up the insane statement or contradiction aren't propositions that have the same truth value on person A and person B's view. Of course, if the propositions that make up the contradiction on person B's view have the same truth value on person A's view, then person A has a contradiction also. And of course, pointing out this caveat doesn't give any wiggle room to Jay, because if he tried to use the caveat to get out of the argument, he would have to say that during his debate with Vegan Gains and I, he was actually just pointing out a contradiction on our view, which his view has as well. Or he was just pointing out some insane statement on our view, which his view has as well, which I think we can all assume he was not doing, because he says in this discussion you're about to hear that he does not believe his view contains any contradictions or insane statements. But I still point out the caveat for the logic nerds. Okay, here's the clip from today. Enjoy it.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
So my question is, if we have person A and we have person B, and person B affirms some proposition that's kind of crazy, or affirms two propositions which form a contradiction, does that mean that there's any is there any problem for person, so if person B has those problems with their view, does that mean that there's any problem for person A?
Is this Ask Yourself?
Yeah, yes, it is.
What's up, dude? How are you?
No, pretty good overall. Bit out of breath just at the gym, but I thought that I'd pop on for a few minutes.
Well, welcome. Can you restate that again? I'm sorry, I got distracted.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit out of
That's
breath.
fine.
Okay, so say that there's two people, A and B affirms some proposition that's either like kind of crazy, or B affirms that there is some kind of contradiction on their view. Does that mean that there's any problem for the worldview of person A?
Well, it would depend on what the worldview of person A and B is.
Right, but would it necessarily be the case that there's a problem for the worldview of person A?
That would depend on what the worldviews are, because the necessity could be, yes, it could be a necessity. Yeah.
Well, do you agree that there are people out there who contradict themselves?
Sure.
Do you agree that there are people out there who hold crazy positions?
Yeah, but I think what we consider as possible or not possible or crazy or rational is, again, determined by our governing presuppositions.
But presumably you don't hold any views that are contradictory or that you think are crazy, right?
Correct.
So it's not the case that if person B affirms some kind of crazy proposition or affirms a contradiction, that there's necessarily a problem with the worldview of person A.
Only if we're talking about fundamental paradigms would it be necessary, and would it entail what you're looking for. If you're talking about something that's not at the paradigm level, then no.
Right. So you would grant that the fact that person B's worldview involves a contradiction or the affirmation of some crazy proposition doesn't mean that there's a problem necessarily for the worldview of person A, because you just said yourself, there's people out there.
Unless it's about fundamental paradigmatic questions.
I don't see why that would stop you from just affirming this proposition, right? Like, this is either true or false.
This is what you try to do every time we have this discussion. What you try to do is not ask a meta level question, and that's really all I'm concerned with. And you always want to try to have it in the realm of normative logic, and I'm not interested in debating the realm of normative logic. I'm asking meta level questions.
Yeah, you don't have to. It's your server, and
so why don't you just debate a meta?
Well, just one second. So first of all, just say it's your server. So, well, 1 second. I just want to address this. So first of all, it's your server. So if you don't want to talk to me, you just say so and I'll be quiet, or leave if you want. I will leave if you want, that is. So I just want a clear answer to that question, and I'll explain why, right?
Because but the question oversimplifies the nature of the debate that I have.
Right. Well, I mean, you can say that, but
that's right, then that's right.
Well, I'm just saying right. I'm not actually saying I necessarily agree with that. I'm just kind of saying right because.
Okay, but it is an oversimplification.
Okay, well, you hold that view. That's fine. So all I want to know, it just seems like you're not giving a clear answer. Like
no,
this is kind
I've told you. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to have the debate that I think there's a difference between what's in the realm of normative logic and what's a paradigmatic level question. So I believe in a coherent theory of truth.
Right.
As I said to you last time.
Mm-hmm. So what I want to understand, and if you don't want to address the question, you can just say I don't want to answer the question. Then I won't.
No, you're trying to trap me into saying that I can't answer your question, and I'm saying that your question.
I'm not saying you can't answer it. I'm just saying I haven't heard the answer to it.
It could be
fully possible you can answer.
Because it's based on an oversimplification.
Could you reiterate to me what the question is, so I'm sure that you understand what I'm asking you?
No, I'm not going to play your games. You can just leave.
Okay, well, here, why don't... Okay, well, I don't mean to upset... Okay, well, I'll leave if you want. Is it okay with you? Yep, okay, all right, I'll just ask one final thing, and then I'll do whatever you want. So
I'm not going to answer
would
your one final thing.
Right, okay, well,
is it
okay?
You can't have like an actual conversation. Like you're like a robot. It's like...
Oh, yeah, that's totally fine. All I'm wondering is if we could both make a closing statement, and you can have the last statement.
No, this is not a debate. You're not an actual legitimate debater. So
right.
No.
Well, I'm just okay. Well, all right. Well, I'm going to try to make my closing statement, and you can ban me if you want to. So all I would say is that you've affirmed yourself that it's not the case. Well, wait, you've affirmed yourself that someone else can hold a view that's contradictory or absurd, and that doesn't mean that your view is contradictory or absurd. So I think you know that means that if someone runs an internal critique of your view, replying by saying that there's a problem on their view is in fact orthogonal.
Jay, shut the fuck up.
Well, I mean, Jay, I just don't think you can address this. I think it's just a question that you're not able to answer.
You're not. Yeah.
Right, but I've shown a question that you can't answer.
You're out of here. You didn't ask the question.
So if anyone wants to know how to wreck Jay, this is all you have to ask. You can just ask him if person A and well then just answer the question, right? If it's not a question that is wrecking you, then just provide an answer.
I'm not answering.
So the question is, well, I mean, it's a proposition. Aren't you the one who affirms the classical laws of logic and thinks a proposition is either true or false? Don't you think that a proposition is either true or false?
Get out of here.
Isn't a proposition either true or false?
One. Can you?
Well, look, Jay, here, I'll just. Anyone else can reply.
Yeah, thank you for finally getting rid of that.
Well, that was a bit of a disaster. Jay, of course, if you want to try to do better, you're welcome to come by the Discord, or I can come by your Discord, or we can arrange another debate. I'm easily reachable. That's all for today. Till next time.